Hello, I'm Jack Taylor, and this is Imagine Christmas, Part 11. If you haven't seen the first part, feel free to go back and look at Part 1 and beyond and see what we're doing to imagine Christmas in a different way. Today, we're talking about Salmon and Rahab. Now, some of you might think the story of Christmas is getting fishy if we're importing salmon into it. Make sure you tune in next time to see where we go with Christmas. Well, not everyone can help the name their mother or father gave them. Salmon is the father of Boaz and the husband of Rahab, and Rahab is the second woman who's honored in the list of ancestors of Jesus. Now, I personally think Salmon was one of the two spies who was sent by Joshua to search out Jericho, and that's when the love story got started. Now, Rahab has a penthouse apartment on top of the city wall, and that wall is thick enough to run chariots around. So she can probably see the hordes of Israelites who are in the distance. The Christmas story was prompted by love, and yet the couples involved along the way don't always fit the neat, tidy definition we have for couples. Consider the ones we've looked at so far. There's Abraham and Sarah, who are half siblings. There's Isaac and Rebekah, who are cousins. There's Jacob, who has married two sisters and then taken their handmaidens as well. So why not a spy and a prostitute? I'm sure there are some unlikely combinations of couples trying to imagine Christmas together right now. And maybe you're deeply disappointed by the recent intrusions into your life and the plans for this season. Now, Salmon may have thought he was being sneaky visiting with a prostitute, but the local watchdogs understood what was happening. And the king's guard is soon banging on the door. Bring out the Hebrew slaves. Bring out the Hebrew spies, he says. The king orders. Rahab has her own network operating, and she's already acted to cover for the men. Hey, I just do business. I don't ask identity, she says. They're long gone by now. Maybe if you hurry, you might catch them. Meanwhile, Salmon is hiding under the stacks of flax on the roof. And that harvested flax lets you know that the time is spring and it's a good time for love. Well, no doors are kicked in this story, no heads busted. The sun is going down and the guards take off running toward the crossing points in the river to catch up with the invisible spies. Well, Rahab proves she's a different kind of woman at this point. She goes to Salmon and his spy mate and she says, I know that the Lord has given you this land and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the waters of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. There were no tracks, no evangelism, 4 steps, no discipleship program. This woman believed by paying attention to what God had done already with others. She believed what she heard and what she saw. Others were reacting in fear, but she embraced the truth of it. It seems that God knew that, and he sent the spies directly to her. And her faith is rewarded with her inclusion in the Christmas story. She says, I've shown kindness to you. Please show kindness to my family and me. Spare our lives. Notice Rahab didn't just think of herself. She worked to save her family as well. And Salmon says, our lives for your lives. If you don't tell on us, we'll treat you kindly when the Lord gives us the land. So she lets them down by a scarlet rope, and they tell her that if that scarlet rope is hanging in place when they arrive, she's going to be spared. And she agrees. The men leave, they hide in the hills for 3 days, and then they report back to Joshua. And her word makes all the difference for Joshua and his army. When they march around Jericho 7 times, I'm sure Salmon is keeping an eye on that red cord hanging out the window of Rahab's place. And somehow Rahab convinces her family to join her in that space. And when the wall falls, that section of the wall is the only part left standing. Maybe that rope is the way that Rahab and her family get down to safety. God has provided a way for rescue to all kinds of people, whether others think they're worthy or not. And that's the message of Christmas. So let's keep imagining it together. Tomorrow, another love story.